Alright, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and in this video I'm gonna teach you how to use the arrow keys in Pygame and how to make things move in Pygame. So let's begin. Okay, so let's do the normal things that we have to do with Pygame. So with Pygame we have to always import Pygame, and then after that we need to do pygame.init, and that just initializes all the modules that Pygame has, and we do that after we import Pygame. So next, let's create our window, and the window is the screen that all our animations and graphics goes on. So I'll call mine window, and I'll set it equal to pygame.display.set underscore mode. And now in this, I'll just do, a fairly small window, something like, so basically what we're going to be doing in this program is that we're going to be making a rectangle and we're going to be making it move. So in order to create a rectangle, there are a couple of things that we need. Let's set those up. And those are just variables, and you can pass in the values themselves, but I find that working with the variables makes it quite a bit easier. So I'll create a variable, I'll call this x, and I'll set it equal to 100. I'll create another variable, I'll call it y, and I'll also set that to 100. I'll create a variable called width, and I'll set this one to, let's say, 50. And I'll set another variable, I'll call it height, and I'll set that one equal to 50 as well. And I will create another variable, I'll call this distance, and I will set this one equal to 5. Okay, so we have our variables. Now let's create our main game loop. And in order to do this, we use a while loop. So let's do that. So I'll create a variable, I'll call this running, and I'll set this equal to true. And this is a Boolean variable, and now I'll do while running. And now let's loop through our events. But before we do that, let's create a delay, and this delay just stops Pygame from looking through any events for a set amount of time, just so that the program has some time to load and it doesn't start getting bombarded with information immediately, because usually nothing bad happens from that, but sometimes it might mess up your program or give you some unexpected results, and it's best to just be safe. So I'll do pygame dot time dot delay, let's say 50, and this is in milliseconds. So don't make it too long, otherwise, your program will be waiting for a bit of time, and no one wants that. So next, after this, let's loop through all of our events that Pygame receives. And, just as a reminder, an event is just something that Pygame processes. So if you press a key, that's an event. If you move your mouse, that's an event. If you click your mouse, that's another event. And there's quite a few events. So in order to loop through that, let's do for event in pygame.event.get. And this just has every event that Pygame receives. If event.type equals pygame.quit, running equals false. And basically what this does is it checks to see if the event.type, so it just checks to see if the event type is quitting, and quitting is when you press the X on the top right of the window. Next, let's create our rectangle. So in order to do this, let's do pygame dot draw dot rect, and over here we do window, so we pass our surface. Next we pass in the color of our rectangle, so let's say 0 comma, let's make it blue, so 0 comma 0 comma 255. And after that, let's pass in our x and the y and our width and our height. And so our first parameter is the window, so that's just our surface. Our next parameter is going to be the color of our rectangle. And finally, our last parameter is the x and the y and the width and our height. So basically the x and the y is where it's located. So all the way in the top left of the Pygame window, that's 0, 0. So the x and the y are set to 100 and 100. So both of them are 100. So the top left of the rectangle is going to be 100 to the right and 100 down from the top left of the Pygame window. And the width and the height are just the width and the height of our rectangle. So in this case, it's a square because the width and the height are the same. So all the way here in the end of our while loop, let me just do pygame dot quit. And this just, if it reaches here, it exits the program. So let's just try running this and let's see what we get. So as you see here, there's nothing. And you might be wondering why that is, because didn't we, didn't we make a rectangle? Well, let's see why and let's fix it. So let me just exit our window. So I just exited that, and that was the pygame.quit right over here that I was telling you about. So if you press that, it just exits that. So you have to do pygame.display.update over here. And this just updates our display because in the end, animations are just a bunch of images that are played repeatedly. So you have to update it. Otherwise, you'll only be stuck with your initial image. And in our case, that's just a full black screen. Now let's try running this and let's see what we get. So you see right here, we have our blue square. So let me exit this. Alright, so now let's make our rectangle move. Okay, so I'm gonna create a list and I'll call it keys. And keys will be equal to the command pygame dot key dot get underscore pressed, and that basically just gets the state of all keyboard buttons. So Pygame, it has variables for every button on your keyboard, and it checks, and those variables are Boolean variables. So it's true if it's being pressed, and it's false if it's not being pressed. And each key has its own, unique variable name. So my left arrow key is K underscore left. So yeah, just like that. And it gets the state of each key. So if we want to check for the state, all we have to do is if keys square brackets pygame dot K underscore left. So if that's being pressed, we'll work with that later. And now after that, let's just create some more if statements for each of our other keys. So for our left key and our right, so for our right key and our up key and our down key and all those other keys, and I'll just change this. So instead of it being K underscore left, I'll make it K underscore right. And over here, I'll make this K underscore up. And now, after that, I'll make it K underscore down. And that's what we have. So now inside this, let's make our square move. So as I was saying to you, our x is the x coordinate of our top left point of our square, and the y is the y coordinate of the top left square in and y is the y coordinate of the top left point on our square. So if we want to move this, all we have to do is change our x and our y. And let's change that by distance so that, it's easy and it has a constant change. And that's the entire reason I made all of these variables over here, so it wouldn't be that much of a hassle for us. So now in here, I'll do x plus equals distance. And now in if keys pygame.k underscore right, I'll do x minus equals distance. And in k dot up, I'll do y plus equals distance. And it's y now because the y deals with up and down and the x deals with left and right. So if the key is equal to pygame.k underscore down, I'll do y minus equals distance. And yeah, there it is. So let's try running this. Okay, so in our Pygame window here, let me try moving my key. So you see, I'm moving my keys. And yeah, it's drawing, but you see the thing is, it just keeps on drawing over each other. So let's fix that. So these are all of our keys. So this is everything that we do to move our keys. Since, like I told you before, animations are just a bunch of images repeated together, we need to set our window to a color. So I'll set my window to black and let me explain why. So after every time it shows this, it moves our rectangle and then it fills the screen with black and then it runs over again. So if we move it again, it just keeps on happening. And this way it prevents us from drawing over each other. So now if we try running this, if I move it, you see it does not draw over each other. So, this is the basic keyboard commands. Also, you can remove that window.fill down there because, in case you wanted to actually have a game where you draw with your arrow keys and stuff like that, if you wanted to have a game like that, not having that there would be useful. And this is just how you use keys to move stuff. So, you guys just learned how to use keys to move something. And thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.